The house was silent, a rare blessing for a Saturday afternoon. My husband Gordon was playing football, and I thought his son Simon was at a friend's place. I was enjoying a moment curled up on the couch with a book when a dull thud from upstairs caught my attention. It was a rhythmic beating followed by a faint moan. My first thought was that Simon had brought a friend over, or was perhaps just playing a video game a bit too loudly. Curious and a little annoyed that my quiet afternoon was being interrupted, I slowly climbed the stairs. Simon's door was trembling slightly, which was unusual. He was usually very discreet. The sounds became clearer now. A distinct creaking of bed springs and his soft, muffled noises. A knot of unease formed in my stomach. When I reached the door, I hesitated, my hand on the handle. Maybe I should just walk away. Maybe it was nothing. But suddenly, a more distinct sound, a sort of grunt, rang out. I pushed the door open just to a crack, taking a peek inside. What I saw made me jump. Simon was on his bed, back to the door, shirtless. His hand was moving rapidly, covered by his blanket. He was clearly absorbed, his body tense, head slightly thrown back. He was much older now, a young man, not the shy teenager who had moved in with us. My face flushed. I had caught him by accident, not playing a video game, but doing something very intimate. Embarrassment flooded both of us. I felt like the worst stepmother in the world for this intrusion. But suddenly, another sensation began to overtake me. It wasn't disgust or anger, but a strange mix of sympathy and something resembling fascination. He looked so vulnerable, so lost in his own world. A part of me, a very primitive and unexpected part, felt a certain understanding, perhaps even comfort. I pulled back from the door sharply, heart pounding. I needed a moment to process it all, to calm my racing mind, but as I stepped back, my foot caught the edge of the hallway rug. I stumbled and let out a small cry. There follows a promotional segment that appears to be an interruption or overlay from the source text, likely an OnlyFans-style ad or channel promo, which I'll translate directly but notice separate. Hey, beautiful. I know you're wondering where I've been. Trust me, I was here. But this chain seemed hard to get. So I created a new home just for you. It's called Same Heat, Same Energy, Even Deeper Secrets. The links are in the description. So slide in, hit the subscribe button, and let's pick up where we left off. The noise was loud in the silent house. I froze, holding my breath, hoping he hadn't heard anything. A moment later, the creaking stopped. Panic flooded me. He knew. Mom. His voice was hoarse, tinged with caution and confusion. My heart sank. There was no going back now. My quiet afternoon had taken a very, very unexpected turn. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, and returned to his door. This time I pushed it fully open and stepped inside. He was sitting up, blanket pulled high, face bright red, hair disheveled, and his eyes usually so clear and open wide with a mix of shock and mortification. I had never seen him so exposed, so vulnerable. It broke my heart a little, even as my own cheeks burned. Simon, I began, my voice softer than I intended. I didn't mean to barge in. I heard a noise and thought. I stopped, unable to find a credible excuse. He knew. We both knew. The air in the room was thick with unspoken tension, a silence heavier than any words. He refused to meet my eyes, staring instead at the wall behind me. It's okay, he mumbled in a barely audible voice. I just wanted. He made a vague gesture, unable to finish his sentence. We were both caught in this incredibly awkward moment. Instead of scolding him or even pretending, I felt a strange calm wash over me. He was a young man exploring his body. It was natural. I took a slow step further into the room, leaning against the doorframe. It's natural, Simon. Surprised by my own words, his head snapped up, his eyes finally meeting mine. There was a flash of surprise, then something else. Relief? Maybe hope. I wasn't sure. Everyone does it. There's no shame in it, he swallowed hard, still clutching the blanket. Okay, he whispered, still looking very hesitant. I could see the tremor in his hands. He was still so young, still figuring things out. A deep maternal instinct mixed with something else I couldn't quite name awakened in me. I wanted to make this less painful for him. I wanted it to be okay. Listen, I continued, taking another small step toward his bed. I really didn't want to intrude, but since I did, are you okay? Everything all right? I tried to keep my tone light, but my heart was still beating a bit fast. He looked at me, searching for judgment, I suppose, and finding none. A slight tension seemed to leave his shoulders. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I'm fine. He still wouldn't hold my gaze for long. I sat gently on the edge of his bed, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough to show I wasn't running away. The blanket shifted, and I caught a brief glimpse of his bare leg. My breath quickened. It was just that, but the situation made everything feel charged. Good, I said, trying to smile to reassure him. Good. Just, if you ever have questions or just need to talk about anything, you can come to me. But as I said the words, I felt confusion wash over me. This was no longer just about being a good stepmother. It was something deeper, something that felt both forbidden and intensely real. I note another brief promo interruption in the original text, translated as, I had to ask why you aren't subscribed to the new channel yet. Same voice, just a little more dangerous. The air in Simon's room was still thick with the earlier tension, but my words seemed to have broken the ice. He looked up at me, his gaze searching. Really? He asked in a still, slightly trembling voice. You wouldn't tell Dad? I shook my head immediately. Never. It's between you and me, Simon. Always. The promise felt heavy, binding us in a way that was entirely new. As I said it, I realized how sincerely I meant it. This secret, this shared moment was ours alone. A strange sensation enveloped us. He finally relaxed a little, letting out a shaky breath. Thank you, Mom. He murmured, using the word mom with a sincerity that touched me deeply. It wasn't just a title. I felt he really meant it. In that moment, without really thinking, I reached out and gently placed my hand on his arm just above the blanket. His skin was warm, a natural heat that surprised me. He didn't flinch. In fact, he looked at my hand, then up at my face, a question in his eyes. To comfort him, a gesture of reassurance. But as my fingers lingered, I felt a spark of another kind. A subtle current, a faint hum of connection. Completely unexpected. There's no shame in it, I repeated softer this time, almost a whisper. He shivered slightly, though I wasn't sure if it was from cold or something else. I felt a flush rise up my neck, realizing how long I'd been touching him, but neither he nor I pulled away. He began, then paused. He seemed to struggle to find the right words. Sometimes it's just hard to understand. He finally looked down at the blanket, still gripped tightly. My heart ached for him. At his age, he was full of new things and probably very confused. I know, I said gently. It can be confusing. It can be very... I moved my hand from his arm, letting my fingers rest lightly on the edge of the blanket. It was a small movement, but it felt significant. I know some of you were wondering where I was. I never left. I just moved to the same energy, a new space. Come find me. He finally looked up at me, and this time his eyes held a new openness. How do people, you know? He made a vague gesture, seeking advice. It was clear he was asking for more than just conversation. He was asking for understanding, another kind of connection. A strange emotion took hold of me. It was a mix of maternal care, yes, but also a growing curiosity, a forbidden urge. It surged through me, a desire I hadn't felt in a long time. My husband and I, our physical connection had faded over the years. But here with Simon, there was a raw energy, a spark. My mind raced. This was a dangerous path, but something in me pushed me to follow it. Sometimes, my voice grew a little now. It helps to know what... I let my eyes meet his. A silent question passed between us. He didn't look away. Instead, his gaze lingered on me for a brief moment, then returned to my eyes. The unspoken question persisted, powerful and undeniable. The silence stretched between us, charged with new energy. Simon's eyes, wide and searching, seemed to ask me to keep explaining. And as I really looked at him, this young man struggling, asking for help, I felt a powerful need to give him what he needed. Not just words, but something more. Something that felt right. Even as a distant part of my mind screamed that it was wrong. And it's about, I began in a barely audible whisper. I moved my hand, placing it gently, almost accidentally, on the blanket, still covering his lap. My fingers brushed the fabric softly, and I felt the heat of his body through it. He tensed slightly but didn't pull away. It's about understanding what you're doing. His gaze fixed on my hand. I could see his pulse throbbing in his neck. My heart hammered wildly against my ribs. This was the point of no return. But I felt a strange calm, a certainty that this was meant to happen. Slowly, deliberately, I reached for the edge of the blanket. My eyes met his again, silently asking permission. He just looked at me, a silent gaze that climbed. With a slight motion, I slowly pulled the blanket back, revealing what he had been hiding. My breath caught. It was hard, proud, and erect, a testament to his youth and biology. I didn't look away. Instead, I let my gaze linger, taking it all in. I wanted him to know there was no shame, no disgust, only acceptance. He blushed an even deeper red, but for the first time, a small, hesitant smile appeared. It was a mix of embarrassment and genuine relief. Are you okay? I whispered softly. I reached out, my fingers trembling slightly, and wrapped them gently around him. The hardness, the slight tremor running through it, it was incredibly powerful. A soft gasp escaped him, a sound of pure, raw pleasure. I moved my hand slowly, mimicking the rhythm I'd heard earlier, but with a gentle, deliberate pressure that was new to him. His eyes closed, head falling back onto the pillow. A soft moan escaped him. My heart pounded, but I felt a strange sense of rightness, the fulfillment of a deep, unspoken need. I leaned closer, my mouth near his ear. Relax, I whispered. Let go. I continued my movements, his breathing growing heavier. His hand, previously clenched, slowly relaxed, and he reached out, fingers tentatively touching my hair, then my cheek. His hand hesitated. I turned my head and pressed my mouth to it. It was a simple gesture, but it ignited another spark, the recognition of something more. I felt myself leaning in, drawn to this connection blossoming between us in this forbidden space. It wasn't just help. It was something else, something primal, deeply human and wonderfully taboo. A shudder ran through Simon, and a muffled cry escaped as he came. My hand was slick, still wrapped around him as he was released. He lay back, eyes still closed, an expression of deep relief and exhaustion on his face. I slowly, gently withdrew my hand. There was a moment of silence broken only by his ragged breathing. I watched him. My own heartbeat slowly returned to normal. A whirlwind of emotions swirled in me. A rush of euphoria, a pang of guilt, and the powerful sense of having done something important, irreversible. He finally opened his eyes and looked up at me. His gaze was softer, less panicked, more vulnerable. He gave a small, shy smile. Wow, he murmured, voice still a bit breathless. Thank you. My heart squeezed. That simple thank you was all I needed, at least in that moment. I reached out and brushed his hair from his forehead. You're welcome, sweetheart, I murmured, the affectionate term coming naturally. It felt right. He lifted his hand and placed it on mine. His touch was hesitant but firm. He didn't pull away this time. He simply held my hand lightly. The bond was still there, palpable and strong. I don't know what to say, he said finally, looking down at our intertwined hands. You don't have to say anything, I replied softly. Just know you're not alone, and it's okay. I paused, not wanting to label it yet. But he understood. The unspoken words floated in the air, a new dimension of understanding between us. He looked up at me, eyes filled with new emotion, gratitude, affection, and something else, something intensely personal. And could we do it again someday? He asked in a barely audible voice full of hope and apprehension. My breath caught. The question was out. I knew the answer before I even formed it. The idea of doing it again, of exploring this new forbidden territory, sent a shiver through me that erased my last doubts. My body hummed with silent anticipation. I leaned in and pressed my mouth to his forehead. Maybe, I whispered just loud enough for him to hear as I looked into his eyes. But this is our secret, Simon. Ours alone. No one will ever know. He nodded vigorously, expression serious. I promise. Our secret. He squeezed my hand, a silent vow passing between us. The weight of the secret was heavy, but it was also exhilarating, binding us in a way nothing else could. I stayed with him a little longer, content just to sit there, his hand in mine. The afternoon had completely changed. The silent house was no longer just silent. It was filled with the memory of our shared moment. The thrilling hum of a taboo lingered. When I finally left his room, I felt lighter, more alive, and utterly committed to the secret we now shared. The line had been crossed, and there was no going back. The days that followed were a whirlwind of heightened senses and silent glances. Simon and I moved through the house with a new awareness, a subtle pull between us that only we understood. Our interactions, once casual and familial, now carried a deeper current. A brush of hands in the kitchen, a lingering look across the table, a knowing smile when my husband Gordon wasn't watching. These small moments became charged with meaning, a secret language only we understood. The guilt was there, a dull ache in the background, but it was overshadowed by an intoxicating thrill. The secret itself was a powerful force strengthening the bond between us. We were partners in this forbidden dance, bound by a shared experience that was both terrifying and exhilarating. One evening, after Gordon had gone to bed, I found him in the living room watching TV, but his eyes locked onto me the moment I entered. The house was dark except for the soft glow of the screen. I sat on the couch next to him, leaving a small space between us. The air crackled with anticipation. Hard day? He asked quietly. He shrugged, glancing toward the hallway to make sure Gordon was really asleep. I was thinking, he murmured, then turned to me, his gaze dark and intense in the dim light. About us. My heart pounded. About us? I repeated, in a barely audible voice. He nodded, then reached out and gently placed his hand on my thigh. This time it was confident, not hesitant, a deliberate touch that sent heat spreading through me. I can't stop thinking about it, he admitted, leaning closer. His voice was thick with desire. About you. My own desire flared, a powerful force that drowned out any remaining reservations. Neither can I confessed, my hand finding his, intertwining our fingers. His touch was electric, a stark contrast to the familiar, almost brotherly gestures of the past. This was new, exciting, and deeply consuming. We spent many nights like that, whenever we were alone or Gordon was away. Our encounters grew more frequent, more adventurous. We explored each other with fresh curiosity, always careful, always silent, always bound by the sacredness of our secret. The help I'd offered that first day had transformed into a fulfilling, profound relationship. It was a dangerous game, a double life. Every glance, every stolen moment, every whispered conversation carried the risk of discovery. But for us, that risk only amplified the sweetness of the forbidden. We were two souls finding comfort and passion where no one expected.